don't know what the fuck he's doing with the whole Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal thing. I don't know. I think it's just imperialism. I think that he just sees no reason that America shouldn't imperialize anything that they want. I don't know. There must be some reason that he is coming to these conclusions. Gone are the days for me that I'm just like, oh, silly, crazy Trump. He's just coming up with these crazy ideas. There must be something. Somebody is saying something to him that's making him think that we should do that. I have no idea what it could possibly be. He was talking about Greenland back the first time. This was a whole thing. It was a whole, what the fuck is Trump talking about? Buying Greenland. And now he's not even in office yet, and he's doing it again. So I don't know. It must have something to do with where his money's tied up or something. He's fascinated with Greenland. There has to be some actual reason. Whether any of this stuff is actually going to go anywhere, I have no fucking idea. But, I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't be the craziest thing that's happened. I wouldn't mind Trump just ripping the mask off the imperial nature of America, though. I was arguing with this guy not too long ago about whether America engages in imperialism. And this was a liberal type guy, you know what I mean? Like, we agreed on most things, at least during the election. You know, we were relatively aligned, but I was consistently coming from a more anti-imperialistic perspective, and he just was not able to connect that to America and America's foreign interests, participation in Ukraine and Israel, the fact that our participation in those two regions contradicts each other, you know, like we're supporting the small imperialized nation of Ukraine while we are also supporting the brutal imperialization of Gaza. So, you know, stuff like that to me makes it very clear that America is an imperial nation. We have imperial interests. It's usually pretty obscured by sort of modern language and politics. But, you know, Trump just using the military to coerce Greenland into letting us have that territory would be a great way to, you know, reintroduce the idea to many people that America is simply an imperial nation.
When I first started looking into it, it didn't seem that bad because he's talking about buying Greenland. And I know Greenland wants their independence from Denmark. And if that was something they chose and wanted to do, if the majority of the people there wanted to become a part of the U.S., you know, I mean, it couldn't hurt us at, you know, cultural exchanges, adding in, you know, different cultures and stuff to our society is, you know, what made this country. So it could conceivably be a good thing. I don't think we need to be focusing on stuff like that, and it probably wouldn't even happen. So, you know, whatever. Trump says a lot of stuff. But then I look more into it, and when he starts talking about the Panama Canal, it's very clear he's talking about just taking these things, setting us up to, you know, like ease the population into the idea of us just annexing these or whatever. Talking about how, you know, the U.S. military built the Panama Canal, which of course they did. And then, you know, Carter is the one who gave it away and back to Panama. And I guess now it's owned by China. I don't know how that happened exactly or whatever. But the way he says it, first of all, he starts talking shit about Carter, like right after his death. It's so unprofessional. He says that that's why he lost the election. Well, that, and then the hostage situation, he brings that up for, that's not related to the canal at all. There's no reason to talk about that right now. And, you know, he's probably not wrong, but it's just so like uncouth to be talking about that. And he does try and say like, oh, you know, I knew him a little bit and he was a good man, but those were big mistakes. And he says it again. I think that's why he lost the election. Just being a real asshole. But like, they're asking him if he would rule out, he would vow not to use military force to take it. And he says he can't do that. He's not going to do that. And that, you know, it was a big mistake to give it away, and it was a big mistake to make it in the first place, and now China owns it. He says it like that, China, which is just, you know, almost like a dog whistly way to be racist. You know, he's just putting a little shit on it when he says it. He always does that kind of stuff. And then when he's sitting there talking shit about Carter, he says, you know, something along the lines, I guess you can't talk about that, though. Talking about, like, it's not PC or whatever. You can't talk about things Carter's done bad just because he died recently. And it's like, well, no, you just shouldn't. Like, there's no reason. It's not really very important to what we're talking about right now. And it's just you talking shit about another president like you always do. And this idea of needing the U.S. to expand, he's floated it several times. He talked about buying Greenland during his first term. Like, it's just because he's not a politician. He never really, had any role in politics before, becoming the president. He kind of just jumped to the end there. But he's only been a businessman. And, we can talk all day about how he's not really a good businessman, much more of a con man and grifter than anything else. But he understands how businesses work and how it should be. And as a business, you have to constantly expand. That's the only way that you're doing well is through expansion. I mean, obviously profit and stuff, but it's never good enough to just profit and keep at that good level of profit. You got to keep building, keep expanding. And so he's trying to run this country like a business, which might actually work in a lot of ways because we are a capitalist country and that's just how the world works, unfortunately. But the problem is he's a fucking grifter, not an actual good businessman.
I feel like it's just sort of the imperialist theory of prosperity, which is that, like, if you take over territories that, have some kind of economic prospect to them, then you, as a unit, benefit from that prosperity. And I mean, it's probably true. If America took over the Panama Canal, Greenland, and Canada, I mean, that would have an economic effect. It's entirely possible that the reason he is so aggressive about this stuff now is because now he's realizing that doing stuff like that is the only way that he's going to, quote, bring prices down, because all of his other economic plans are poised to just drive prices up. And he's now been sort of backpedaling on his promise to bring prices down, saying that's a very hard thing to do, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not saying I know whether it would bring prices down if he were to, if we were to annex Greenland and Canada. But, I mean, it definitely, if that were to be done successfully, which I don't even know if that's possible, but if it was, then it would benefit America to do that. So maybe that's his plan. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't think any of that will happen, but there's got to be some kind of, there's got to be something he has in mind here. I mean, if it's not exactly what he's saying, then there's got to be some other play here that he's getting at, because otherwise it's just, I don't know, maybe it'll fizzle out into nothing like it did last time, but it seems like he's more serious about it. And honestly, the Panama Canal thing, that kind of makes sense to me. If the idea is that China owns that now and prospers from it, then I can see why, again, with an imperialist mindset, you would want to take that back. But that's with the aggressive. I think that what he wants to do is expend America's political capital all over the world, with abandon. Use it to take over Greenland. Maybe even try to fucking leverage Canada into becoming a state if you can. I think he's trying to, trash the alliances that exist through NATO, basically. And that's, I think, part of it with this whole Greenland and Denmark thing. We're supposed to be allies, but everybody knows that Trump hates NATO and is essentially in line with Putin on NATO, wants to blow up NATO. And so I'm not saying all of this fits together into some kind of plan or theory, but it seems to me that he wants to blow up NATO and pursue American political capital in other places as ruthlessly as possible. So, that's gone really well in the past for world leaders that have attempted that.
Yeah, it makes sense that he wants to blow up NATO. That guy can't work as a team or give anyone else credit or do anything where he doesn't have unilateral control over everything. I was very concerned about this, and I am concerned about it, don't get me wrong. But I was at dinner tonight with some extended family. I was talking to my stepdaughter and showing her the article, and there's no love lost there for Trump. But I was really concerned about it, mainly because of his refusal to rule out military use. And I understand this early in an operation not ruling out anything as a rule, but just the way he said it and the way, it seemed very clear it was a lot of softballs setting us up for something like that. But I'm talking to her about it, very concerned, and she doesn't seem, worried about it. And she picks up on that, and she's like, well, he says a lot of things. I still haven't seen that wall, much less Mexico paying for it, So, and she had a good point. He says a lot of shit, but I don't know. He brought it up a couple times, and he seems to just be easing people into the idea, talking about how it's ours, and basically implying that it was stolen by China. I don't know the actual process it went to China, but I'm sure it was above board. But he wants to get everyone on board with taking it back very clearly.